to save anyone. Not even yourself.
Are you okay? Hey, are you okay?
I'm fine.
Here, this is for you.
Huh? A flower?
That's right. It's a gift. You know, for scaring those things away.
What things?
Few characters in Final Fantasy VII, or really all of Final Fantasy, spark conversation the way Aerith Gainsborough does. Not only is she sassy as hell, she's also more crucial to the game's larger story than most, if not all, other characters, while also being the centerpiece of the one moment of Final Fantasy VII that stands to this day as one of its most iconic and memorable. Understandably, there's no shortage of discussion around what Aerith's role in the upcoming Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is going to be, and whether or not we can expect her story to see any significant changes. Here, we'll be tackling those questions as well, but before we get to that, we're first going to look back and talk about her story in the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Do keep in mind, however, that there will be spoilers ahead for the original FF7. As crucial as Aerith is to the game's story, she doesn't really become a major player until several hours into the story. She does, of course, make a brief appearance in the early goings, when Cloud runs into her after the bombing of Sector 1's reactor, at a time where she's being attacked by the ghostly entities known as the Whispers. Though they're invisible to Cloud at first, after Aerith grabs his hand, the apparitions suddenly become visible to him, and in the ensuing chaos, where Sheena's forces are also alerted to Cloud's presence, Aerith manages to flee from the scene. She doesn't show up again until later in the game. After the botched bombing of the Sector 5 reactor, Cloud is separated from Barrett and Tifa and finds himself in the Sector 5 Undercity, where he meets Aerith again. With his ultimate goal in that moment being to return to the Sector 7 slums and meet back up with Tifa and Barrett, in the interim, he's hired by Aerith as a bodyguard and asked to escort her to her home in Sector 5. As it turns out, she too is in Shinra's crosshairs, with the company's elite group of soldiers having been after her for years at this point. And why exactly is Aerith of such interest to Shinra? As revealed in the latter sections of the game, Aerith is attuned to the planet's life stream and is able to use it for her magical abilities. As a child, Aerith and her mother were captives of Shinra, where Shinra conducted experiments on both of them in order to research their capabilities. Specifically, Shinra's ultimate goal was to find rich Mako reserves that the company hoped to exploit for its own gains, and Shinra believed that Aerith and her mother could lead them to it. While Aerith was still a child, she and her mother managed to escape. The latter died not long afterward, but before doing so, left her daughter in the care of a random passerby, Elmira Gainsborough, who would take Aerith and raise her as her own daughter. Shinra, however, continued to keep an eye on her, and Shinra would make numerous attempts, right up to the events of Final Fantasy VII Remake, to take Aerith back into captivity. So back to the story at hand. During the process of escorting Aerith back to her house, he protects her from Shinra, taking on agents Reno and Rude in combat and defeating both. Back at Aerith's house, Elmira secretly asks Cloud to stay away from her daughter, fearing what could become of her if she gets further involved in matters relating to Shinra. But Aerith, in her stubbornness, insists on helping Cloud by finding her a way back to the Sector 7 slums. On their journey back, while in Wall Market in Sector 6, they cross paths with Tifa, who, with their help, is able to gain an audience with the crime lord known as Don Corneo, whom she intends to interrogate about Shinra's plans for Avalanche, knowing that he often colludes with the company. Corneo tells them that Shinra intends to drop Sector 7's plate and destroy the entirety of the slums below, so that it can then publicly blame Avalanche for the resulting destruction and widespread chaos. As Cloud and Tifa rush back to the slums, Aerith accompanies them as well. Back in Sector 7, things go spectacularly wrong. Shinra succeeds in dropping the plate, while Aerith too is taken captive. In fact, she agrees to go with them, under the condition that they'll take Barrett's daughter Marlene to safety, something that they actually do by delivering her to Elmira's house in Sector 5. With Aerith back in Shinra captivity though, Cloud, Tifa and Barrett infiltrate the company's HQ in the game's final act. After run-ins with Sephiroth, Rufus Shinra, Cloud, Tifa, Barrett and Aerith are able to escape, with Red 13, a fellow Shinra captive that they help rescue, tagging along. Before leaving Midgar, however, they also have another fateful encounter, not only with Sephiroth, but with the Whispers as well. The ghostly entities work towards one goal and one goal only, ensuring that the flow of destiny remains unchanged, and that the things that are supposed to happen, happen. In other words, they don't want Final Fantasy VII Remake's story to deviate too much from the original Final Fantasy VII. As the game comes to an end though, the party's able to defeat the Whispers, breaking the shackles of destiny, which of course means that all bets are now off for the future, at least in theory. What that will mean for Aerith's story in the upcoming Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is, of course, one of the biggest questions fans have about the game. The role that she'll play in the game is undoubtedly going to be a pivotal one, especially when it comes to understanding just how the remake's continuity is related to that of the original game, and whether the two are connected in ways that hasn't been made clear just yet. Throughout the Final Fantasy VII Remake, there are more than a few hints that Aerith knows more than she's letting on, that she maybe knows what fate she meets in the original game's story, that she understands the purpose of the Whispers. Clearly, that's something we're going to get much more clarity on as Final Fantasy VII Rebirth provides at least some concrete answers to the many tantalizing questions raised by its predecessor. Beyond that, her history with Zack is something else that's bound to play a significant role in Rebirth's story. Aerith and Zack's relationship, and their shared history, played an important part in shaping Final Fantasy VII's story, and of course, had major implications on Cloud's own personal arc as well. Even if we were to assume that none of that will see any major changes in the remake trilogy, Aerith is still guaranteed to be a crucial cog. But, given the fact that Zack seems to be inexplicably alive in Rebirth and involved in the story with an expanded role, there's little doubt that Aerith will prove to be a central figure in his story as well, and in entirely unexpected ways, since this in particular is completely uncharted territory for the original FF7 story. Above all else, however, what everyone wants to know is whether Aerith is going to meet the same heartbreaking fate that she did in the original Final Fantasy VII. The developer has confirmed that Rebirth is set to end at the Forgotten City, which is of course where Aerith is killed by Sephiroth in the original game. Is that still how the story's going to be in the remake's continuity? Will Rebirth end with Aerith's death, or will it take a swerve? Especially with the Whispers, supposedly, having been taken out of the picture. Will Aerith survive? Will someone else take her place? Or are we headed down the same path as the original game? These are perhaps the biggest questions most of us have for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's story, and with Aerith at the centre of all of these mysteries, clearly she's going to be a major player in the game, more so perhaps than any other character. So what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.